First time you've seen something like that?
No.
Does it ever get any less shocking or?
Yeah, you do know that those things happen because actually we do eat
animals,
meat. So
how was that for you? Confronting? Horrible? Yeah. Yeah, this is what the animals have to go through every day. But
I stopped the video on the start because I don't want to see that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I don't eat meat.
Oh, vegetarian.
Yeah.
How did you feel when they connected the animal to the food on the plate? You're vegetarian? So you're vegetarian? Okay, so but still, vegetarians aren't off the hook, so don't worry, we'll talk about that in a sec. So as a vegetarian, you made the choice not to eat animals for a moral reason, or?
Yeah, just
for ethics.
Yeah,
oh wow.
It's not healthy.
A lot of people make that step themselves for ethics, and without realizing something about the dairy and the egg industries and how they're all the same type of industry.
Exactly.
For me, when I see these images, I connect it to the food I used to eat, and it makes me see it not as food, but this product of this violence. See, people see the food, and they don't connect what's happening to animals to the food. They just, it's disconnect. Would you agree? Connecting the dots, animal, violence, plate. Usually we only see the plate. You don't see it, so it doesn't really exist in people's minds, and this is by design. The advertisers don't want to show you what happens in these farms, because otherwise you wouldn't buy their product, you wouldn't consume the product. So when we see meat, we obviously know that that's a chopped up animal body. But when we see a glass of milk, it's a little harder to make the connection. So today we're in a dairy farm here in Israel, really big dairy farm where they take the milk from the babies. The reason they separate the calves, do you know why?
Yeah.
Why?
Because they need the milk.
Are you vegan?
No, I used to be.
Oh, you used to be vegan, okay. So they separate the calves away from the mother. Do you know why?
Because of the milk, the mother should give milk.
Oh, so that the calves can't take the milk.
Exactly.
Because we want to take the milk. These will all be killed. For veal?
For what?
Veal is baby cow flesh. You find me a dairy farm that doesn't separate the families. I mean, you're not really on a dairy farm. This here's all cow.
Yeah.
And this here is a sick cow. So they get infections because they're in their own feces all the time. They're all just defecating on themselves, lost their children. They're essentially just slaves at the end of the day. They keep them in these cages. They suck on my fingers because they want their mum. Their mothers, they're not too far across the road, so they can hear them screaming for them. Around 60% of the cows here are infected with mastitis. This is very common. Around a third of the cows in the UK are infected with mastitis. When they are being milked, they have feces all over their udders, and it's coming out into the milk, getting sucked out into the milk. Even if you get the grass pasture, you know, the sort of high welfare dairy is still separated. And when they can't produce the milk, they're all being killed afterwards. So they're there for their bodies, used until they can't be used anymore. And when they can't get any more milk out of them, they mince them up for hamburgers. Mothers that have just lived a life of sorrow. Anyway, that's dairy. And eggs are no different. They kill all the egg-laying hens after they can't produce. Eggs, you would know this after being vegan. We don't draw a distinction. We don't see a difference between the flesh and the breast milk because they are both a product of violence.
Yeah, but meat is more disgust for me.
Yeah,
meat.
Flesh is more disgust.
To eat someone.
Yeah.
To eat someone.
So when you buy cheese from a cow, you're saying we want these dairy farms to take children away from mothers, kill dairy cows when they can't produce milk, and we're putting these industries in business. So why did you go back to consuming flesh and breast milk and stuff? Where are you?
Doing a gap year right now.
Oh wow.
So we live like in some sort of a community.
Oh wow.
Most of our food is really not healthy. So like I'm trying not to eat as much, but I do eat like an egg a week, or I would
an egg a week.
Some dairy.
What situation do you have to consume an egg a week?
When we have an option, I would probably take it.
Wow. So you cannot choose the food you eat. You're forced to eat what they give you.
I'm not forced.
Okay.
Like I can't eat the vegan options, but they're not
So
too good.
So would you say when you're not in this facility, you still make vegan choices all the time? So it's only when you're forced to eat an egg a week in this facility that you're not vegan, or?
The only thing I think that it's probably that people need to is eat less.
Eat less of that suffering.
Of course,
Yeah.
No, I don't know actually, but
Yeah, no, that's like reduce the amount of violence we commit against animals.
yeah.
Okay.
Reduce the amount
Reduce.
of meat. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Do you think people, if they see this injustice to animals, do you think they should reduce, or do you think it's more important to eliminate the injustice completely? Do you think there's an acceptable level of this type of violence to animals? Do you think there's an acceptable level to commit, or do you think we should move towards eliminating the violence to animals?
Yeah, maybe not this kind, but like in Sweden we eat a lot of deer that you hunt yourself and that are free. And
So
that's a different
you eat
story, I
mainly
think.
deer in Sweden?
No, not mainly, but
Oh.
if you choose, you can choose the good meat.
I think that reducing it first is the best because everything at the same time is hard.
I was vegan for I think 1.5 years.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I was.
So was it hard for you, or?
Yeah, it was hard.
It's hard.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Do you know there's 500 vegan-friendly restaurants here in Tel Aviv? It's the vegan capital of the world here. It's the easiest place on earth to be vegan.
But I have 2 parents that
Oh, you live with your parents and they feed you. What was hard about it?
It's hard to get food when you're not at home.
Oh wow. What part of Germany are you from?
Bavaria.
Bavaria. Okay.
We have a canteen where I'm working, and we get nothing vegan.
Wow.
So I started to eat salad every day.
Salad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's not. But every day it was very hard.
I don't even eat salad. And even if you didn't want to do veggies, we've got vegan burgers, vegan cheese, vegan ice cream. You know, we've got all the junk foods that the only thing that's different is we don't harm innocent animals that can't defend themselves and can't get bread sandwiches, potatoes, rice, pasta, legumes, beans. You can't bring your own, make your own.
Yeah, make your own.
Okay.
I have to.
It's pretty easy. Well, for me, I feel like I've ridden through the desert in Australia, and I can always get a can of beans, soy milk, cereal, rice, any petrol station, gas station. I can be vegan in. I've never had problems at all. But I suppose my motivation is strong. You know, when I look at it through the eyes of the animals, I thought, what's more difficult, me finding plant-based options, me making a sandwich here and there, bringing my own food, or a calf being taken from their mother, killed for veal, put in a slaughterhouse. And, yeah. It's not as hard for me as it is for them, so I make the choice based on that.
I really think it's better because
Better for the animals.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I do it for the animals. Yeah.
It would be
I eat unhealthy burgers, and
it's not about me and my house that much.
you're doing it for others.
Yeah, that would be.
But the benefit is it actually is scientifically proven to be better for us. Vegetarian and eating meat, but really you probably care about animals too, yeah? So did I. I probably ate animals more than all of you put together. But then I made the realization, like you did, made the connection, yeah? You connected the animals to the food. When I can't get something vegan, I might have to go a little bit further, go in here and have a look around. It's easy for me because I see how hard it is for the animals. If it makes you that sad, you know, and you see, you know, if it hurts your heart that much, you don't have to contribute to it. You know.
My story is really similar to her story, so
Well.
my family like meat all the time.
So does mine. So does everyone's.
When I changed to vegetarian,
Yeah.
I felt so bad because I realized what crime is it.
It's a crime.
It's a crime.
It's a crime.
It's a crime.
It's an injustice.
And I felt very, very bad.
Yeah.
Like,
I asked myself this question, maybe I'll ask you, do you think that our taste is more important than an animal's life?
I think it's a little bit of the circle.
Yeah.
Sorry, but
Like a circle of life?
circle of life.
I always have perspective because I'm going to these places, I'm seeing the footage, I'm witnessing the animals. This is a common one we get as well about what happens in nature, and like sharks eat other animals and animals do eat other animals. Animals commit acts of violence in nature. Animals are killing for survival. When we have alternatives, we have freedom of choice.
I feel that if I will come to my parents and I will say them, hey, I'm vegan, so they like kick me out from the house.
How old are you?
I'm 18.
18. Okay. Time to move out? Nice. So when we have a choice between causing unnecessary harm or eating plant-based alternatives which are healthier and taste the same, do you think that it's sort of a moral obligation maybe to make the choice that causes the least amount of harm? You don't have to rely on your parents to feed you. Does she understand that? Ask her if she understands. Yeah, like you remember you're consuming flesh of animals who didn't want to die. They're in your stomach. This makes me feel, I feel disturbed.
I wouldn't eat meat or fish in my life.
Yeah, but for the same reasons you don't eat meat and fish, these should be the same reasons you don't eat milk and eggs, because they kill the same amount of animals. It's more suffering. And do you think if everyone saw what happens to animals on a frequent basis, like instead of just seeing it once and then falling back into the old advertising and what you're used to, if we're on a frequent basis like I do, I constantly see what happens in slaughterhouses, witnessing, fish be stabbed and dragged out the ocean and suffocated. If people were confronted with these images regularly, do you think this would steer them in the direction of making the more moral choice? Or
I think people forget very easy. Actually.
Yeah.
I think it's like, yeah.
People choose not to see that.
So willful ignorance.
Yeah, of course.
Now I've met the animals. I meet animals in sanctuaries. I was at Freedom Farm Sanctuary. Beautiful turkeys. They come running up. They want to cuddle. Beautiful creatures. Amazing. They're so intelligent. They get sad, hungry, grumpy, cute. I used to eat their flesh. They didn't want to die. It makes me disturbed now. What do you prefer to be? Do you prefer to know the truth and act on that, or do you prefer just to not look at it and just live comfortably without recognizing any of that? Or
let's say in Sweden, the hen is walking free.
So free range.
Exactly, free range.
It's like a humane way of raising animals.
Exactly.
So the welfare of the animals is always breached when we look at them as a product. So no matter how nicely they're treated, they're always going to be chopped up into pieces because they're money at the end of the day. They're not their own being. See, for free range animals, most of the slaughterhouses I've seen, they slaughter free range, and in fact they all go to the same slaughterhouse. So from the animals' eyes, letting them eat some grass before we take their life and chop them up. You'd be surprised how many people actually do think animals are things, and that they don't feel, that they don't want to live, that they're just, people think that fish are like vegetables and they don't matter. So, because I work for animals every single day of my life, speak for them, try to help them, try to convince people not to hurt them with their food. And
appreciate you doing
and people like you that care are what's going to help change the world. So I think being strong in your ethics, it'll give you fulfillment, because you'll realize, wait, I'm standing for something every single day. I'm against that, and I'm not going to contribute to that, and this is the person that I am, and this is what creates a stronger fulfillment in your heart, Well, you don't really necessarily have to love animals to not want to see them be put in a slaughterhouse. We don't have to like each other either to understand that it's wrong to, abuse someone or kill someone for a sandwich or a glass of milk, yeah? I mean, that's pretty much across the board, we can agree on that, yeah? Well, it seems to me like you care about animals. I don't really have to convince you of that. A lot of people I have to convince. If I could take anything back from my past, anything, it would be that. It would be that. They didn't deserve it. I didn't need to eat them to survive. See if you feel better. A lot of people feel lighter and more clear if they don't have animal body parts in their stomach. It's just, they go, wow, that was easy, it was delicious, it wasn't expensive. You're saving a lot of animals in that time as well. So I just didn't feel like there's any justified reason to do that to innocent beings. We wouldn't do it to a dog. Why do we do it to a pig or a turkey or a little cute chicken? It sounds like you're aware, and you're moving towards being vegan, which is amazing. Anyway.
How to convince people?
Yeah, well, you're already good people. I don't have to convince you to be a good person. You are. You already are. It's just that we've been taught that eating animals is normal. But they don't show you a slaughterhouse, do they? They don't go, here, it's normal, here, let's show our children a slaughterhouse. It's not normal. They hide it from us for a reason, because we're good people. And good people see what happens to animals, they don't want to consume it. The more that people see this information, the more change we can make. But thank you very much. Thanks, brother. We've got some more information here for you, bro.
What's your name?
Joey.
Joey?
Joey, good to meet you, man. Keep up the good work, and I hope you steer the right way, brother.
to make a change. It's time for us as a people to start making some changes. Let's change the way we eat, let's change the way we live, and let's change the way we treat each other. You see, the old way wasn't working, so it's on us to do what we gotta do to survive. And still I see no changes.